One of the questions I get asked most often is it too late to plant fill in the blank? Now, to be fair, I get this question in April sometimes, but a lot of times it's in July once summer has really kind of kicked off and the warm weather is kind of setting in. Is it too late to plant so-and-so? Now, right now you can plant pretty much any warm season crop from transplants from the garden center. But what can you plant from seeds? In this video, I'm going to go over my top 7 choices for what you can plant in seeds right now and still get a harvest in almost any climate. Coming up. Hey guys, it's Brian with California Garden TV. If you're looking to join an online garden community that offers tips, tricks, and support to grow your best garden ever, even in the heat of July, then you're in the right place. Get started now by clicking subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss anything. Now let's get growing. Just because I'm picking my top 7 doesn't mean that's the only ones that you can grow right now or get started right now. It depends on your climate. There are some warmer climates that we get frost later in the year and you can start different things. Or there are some climates that get cool weather faster and you can actually start planting cool weather crops right now. So how do you know? You need to figure out your first frost date. Now, a lot of times for spring planting, we talk about figuring out your last frost date, which is the latest in the year that you could get frost. So you know after that date, you're pretty safe in putting out your crops. Now, as summer wears on, your first frost date becomes a very important number if you're going to continue to grow. And that is, when is the average time in your area that you get your first frost? So that could be, we're in December. Some of you are in September. I would say a lot of you are probably October, if I had to guess. But you need to find that out, and you can go, I'm going to put a link below to the Farmer's Almanac online. If you're in the United States, probably just Google it if you're not, but the frost date for your area, and if you put your zip code in there, on the Farmer's Almanac, it will tell you your first and last frost date. Then all you have to do is look at a packet of seeds, and usually on the packet, it's going to tell you days to maturity or days to harvest. So if, let's say, we're growing squash, and that's 60 days from seed to harvest, then all you have to do is look at your first frost date and just make sure that you've got a little over 60 days before then to plant right now. Now again, if the packet does not say that information, just Google the variety and days to harvest, and it'll give you the answer. Now, all of the crops that I'm going to go through, these top 7, have a 60-day days to harvest or less. And so that means now it's the 1st of July. So as long as your frost date comes after the 1st of September, you're going to be good with all these crops. But if you're looking to plant something that I'm not covering, again, just look and see what the frost date is in your area and how many days to harvest, and you'll be fine. Okay, so the first crop are beans. Now you can do pole beans or you can do bush beans. They take about the same amount of time, about 58 days. Now I've got plenty of pole beans and don't have a lot more room for pole beans, so I'm just gonna tuck in some bush beans wherever I find a little spot. And they don't take much space. You can space them about 8 to 10 inches apart. Now I'm planting the little petite French fillet beans. And I'm just gonna plant a few in this area here. And I'm just gonna put 2 in each spot, just for insurance. Now, if you consistently get 90-degree temperatures or above, you want to plant your beans at this time of year in a place where they're going to get some afternoon shade. You're also going to want to make sure you keep the ground moist, and a nice heavy layer of mulch is going to help conserve moisture so that they can thrive during the hot weather. Now, my second choice is basil. Basil is a hot weather herb, and I planted in the spring with my tomatoes, but after a couple of months, the basil starts to get a little bit less tasty than it was in the beginning. This is especially true if you let it go to flower. So you can keep cutting it back and keep using it, But a good idea is around this time of year to plant a whole another batch. Let the old ones go to seed. It's going to bring in the pollinators. They love basil. But we're going to plant some here in this corner. And I just sprinkle some around the garden in wherever I see a little blank spot. And so I have basil all over by the end of the summer. Okay, number 3 is cucumbers. Now, cucumbers are hot weather vegetables. They grow super fast, less than 60 days. And they're really prolific. You can get a lot of cucumbers on one vine, especially when the weather heats up. Now, regular cucumbers take about 60 days, 50 or 60 days. Now, Armenian cucumbers, they take 70 or a little more, 75. And so you want to make sure if you're getting near your window there for frost, make sure if you're going to do Armenians that you have that amount of time. Otherwise, the regular cucumbers, less than 60 days, you'll be good. Summer squash is the next choice, and it's a really good one because summer squash really takes off fast in the hot weather, and you will have ready to harvest fruit in less than 8 weeks. Sometimes in 6, depending on your climate, but for sure in 8 weeks. And you'll get a good crop out of those before frost in almost any climate. So a little inside information. This Sunday, this Self-Sufficient Sunday, I'm going to be doing a video on growing squash vertically. Not just vining squash, zucchini, and summer squash. And it doesn't matter if you've already started growing them the regular way. I'm going to show you how to transition them to vertical so you can save space, plant more things around them, and help the pollinators find the flowers. So make sure you have the bell icon hit so you get a notification on Sunday when that comes out. Number 5 is Swiss chard. It's a warm weather green, one of the only warm weather greens that you can plant in the hot weather. Kale is another warm weather green. It doesn't take off so well if planted in the warm weather, but chard does. And there's all colors of it. You can eat it raw. My favorite is sauteed with some onions and garlic and some bacon grease and sprinkled with a little bit of vinegar. It's so delicious. The next one is sweet corn. Sweet corn is a great one to plant in July because it will take off really fast. The only thing you have to worry about with corn in hot weather is to keep it well watered. You want the ground always moist. A layer of mulch would be good for this as well. Otherwise, you're going to get dried out corn kernels. And who wants that? The last one is zinnias. I've made a huge effort this year to attract more pollinators to the garden by interplanting the vegetables with flowers that have open centers with lots of visible pollen. Zinnias are a great one, especially for hot weather. Now this year I have planted cosmos, echinacea, milkweed, lavender, hyssop, sunflowers, and I let some basil, oregano, and dill go to flower. The bees love those. Now last week I sowed some wildflowers in the back of this bed. I see a few of them kind of coming up. But I'm going to be planting some zinnias today. Zinnias are a hot weather flower. They really like being planted in the hot weather. They're native to Mexico, so it shows you right there. They do love the heat. And really all we need to do is I'm going to scratch a little line next to the drip hose. And I'm not going to worry about spacing. Just going to sprinkle them along. I can thin them out later and move them around. So they do love the heat, and they're going to bloom all the way to frost. So hopefully with these 7 choices and any you choose and do some research on, you can fill in any bare patches and keep your garden in full production. So remember to be back here on Sunday for Self-Sufficient Sunday, where we're going to be going over vertical growing of squash. And then on Tomato Tuesday, we're going to be back at Tammy's house because she has a cherry tomato plant that is taking over her entire garden. And so we're going to trim a little bit of that, show you how to do that. There is some disease developing on there because of it. So we're going to take care of that on Tuesday. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you Sunday. And by the way, for all of us Americans, happy 4th of July.